While storing some clutter in the basement, the man was horrified to find that something was wrong with a painting in the distance. Curious, he stepped closer to inspect it, only to see a beautiful woman stepping out from the painting. And the reason this family encountered such a bizarre painting goes back to a few days earlier. In a luxurious manner, a woman was lying in bed in pain. Watching his frail wife, the man beside her wore a worried expression. He removed the woman's ring, turned to the living room, lit the candles on the table, and then took out a strange book, chanting eerie spells toward the canvas in front of the candles. But after waiting for a long time, the canvas showed no reaction. He carefully checked the ancient book and confirmed he hadn't misread the spell. Just when the man thought the ritual had failed, something strange happened. The paints on the table began to wriggle and crawl toward the canvas. Seeing the woman on the canvas, the man believed he had succeeded. According to the ancient text, he needed to burn the canvas to resurrect his wife. But just as he lit a match to burn the canvas, the woman in the painting suddenly came to life. Time flashed forward 5 months. That afternoon, housewife Evelyn was busy at home as usual. But while preparing lunch, a man in a suit suddenly arrived at the house, claiming to be a lawyer handling her sister's estate. Learning that her sister had died, Evelyn was shocked. Although they were sisters, since her sister had married into a wealthy family, they rarely kept in touch. What surprised her even more was that since Clive, her sister's husband, had no living relatives, all the estate would legally go to her side of the family, making Evelyn the primary heir. Evelyn, caught off guard by the lawyer's words, told her husband Adam, who, upon learning that Evelyn was about to inherit an entire estate, couldn't hide his excitement. He immediately urged Evelyn to sign the inheritance papers and accept the estate. The next morning, the family drove to her sister's luxurious mansion. The extravagance of the estate surpassed anything they had ever seen. The backyard had an enormous garden, and even the front gate had its own special driveway. While touring the mansion, Adam noticed many paintings hanging in the house. Although he didn't understand art, the frames alone looked expensive. In the second-floor living room, they even found a nude portrait of a woman. Both Adam and his eldest son, Nelson, thought the woman looked very attractive. Considering they had 2 daughters at home, Evelyn asked Adam to wrap the painting and store it in the basement. However, the family, busy counting their new fortune, had no idea this mansion was far from ordinary. That evening, the second daughter, Janice, was getting ready for bed. While removing her makeup, she noticed something oddly unsettling about the painting above her bed. Janice tried to take the painting down, but it was nailed to the wall and couldn't be removed. Frustrated, she gave up and went to sleep after a quick wash. But as Janice slept soundly, she didn't notice that the painting on the wall began to move. The next morning, Janice woke up from her dream, only to find strands of her hair had been cut off. She thought it was her sister Lucy playing a prank and angrily stormed into Lucy's room to teach her a lesson. Evelyn, hearing the commotion, came over as well. Learning that the youngest daughter had allegedly cut Janice's hair, Evelyn told Lucy to apologize, but Lucy insisted she had done no such thing and stubbornly refused to apologize. Faced with her 2 stubborn daughters, Evelyn could only sigh helplessly. Since the house had been vacant for 5 months, there was no food in the fridge. Adam and Nelson went outside to buy groceries. Taking advantage of their absence, Evelyn decided to clean up the mansion. But while wiping a mirror, she encountered something strange. Yet when she turned around again, the painting behind her appeared normal. At first, Evelyn thought she was just seeing things and ignored it, continuing with her chores. Downstairs, Evelyn saw Lucy running through the hallway and warned her to be careful not to trip. But when she reached the living room, she saw Lucy waving at her from the backyard. Seeing Lucy in the backyard confused Evelyn. She was sure her daughter had just been inside. How did she end up outside so quickly? Curious, she went to the hallway to investigate, but when she opened the door, she found it led to the basement. Evelyn searched the basement but found only the painting, a cabinet, and some clutter. Had she been mistaken? However, the strange occurrences didn't stop. That night, Janice covered the painting with a white cloth, but shortly after falling asleep, she felt something cutting her hair again. Thinking it was another prank, she jumped up to catch Lucy red-handed, but after searching the room, Lucy was nowhere to be found. Just as Janice was puzzled, she turned and saw something even more horrifying. Terrified, Janice hid inside a cabinet, But when she looked back, the painting above her bed now only had the frame. The image inside had mysteriously disappeared. Panicking, Janice looked around the room, trying to see where the painting had gone. As she peered outside the cabinet, she suddenly heard the sound of scissors coming from inside the cabinet. Evelyn and Adam rushed over upon hearing the noise, but when they entered the room, the painting was back on the wall. Janice told her parents what had happened. Seeing their anxious daughter, Evelyn thought she had just had a nightmare and asked Adam to take the painting down. However, when Adam brought the painting to the basement, he noticed that the painting he had previously stored there seemed to move slightly. Curious, Adam leaned in for a closer look, only to see the woman inside the painting suddenly embrace him. The next morning, a dazed Adam woke up from his sleep, only to find himself lying in the basement. Seeing the painting not far away, Adam recalled the events of the previous night, and the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. He fetched a white cloth and covered the painting. However, the strange events were far from over. That night, while asleep, Evelyn vaguely heard noises in the hallway. She turned over and saw that Adam was no longer beside her. Evelyn assumed he had gone to the bathroom, but when she stepped outside, she caught a glimpse of a yellow figure flashing by. Thinking it was a burglar, Evelyn hurried after it, but when she reached downstairs, the figure had mysteriously vanished. Puzzled, Evelyn noticed that the figure looked a lot like the woman in the painting on the wall. But how could a painting move? After thinking about it for a while, Evelyn assumed it was just a coincidence. She turned to check other areas of the house, unaware that as she turned around, the painting on the wall started moving. When Evelyn turned back, the painting now only had its frame remaining. She looked down, only to see the girl from the painting standing on the floor. Before Evelyn could react, she was pushed and tumbled down the stairs. Her screams woke Nelson from his sleep. As he was about to get up and check, he turned around and saw the painting on the wall melting, with the dripping paint turning into a stream flowing down the wall. Curious, Nelson leaned in to investigate, only to be pulled into the painting. Luckily, Adam heard the commotion and rushed over, pulling Nelson out just in time. But just as they rescued Nelson, they heard Evelyn's cries from the basement. The family rushed downstairs to find Evelyn lying on the ground in pain. After a series of strange events, the family realized something was terribly wrong with the house. That very night, they packed up and moved back to their old home. Evelyn thought this would free them from the painting's curse, but little did she know, the nightmare was just beginning. While cleaning the house earlier, Evelyn had found a strange book. On the first page, there was an address. Determined to find out the truth behind the cursed paintings, she followed the address and found a woman named Leonora. When Leonora learned that Evelyn had been to the old mansion, she looked troubled and took Evelyn down to her basement, which was filled with paintings. From Leonora, Evelyn learned that these were no ordinary paintings, but prisons for trapped souls. It turned out the Frank family possessed an ancient dark magic that allowed them to trap the souls of the dead inside paintings, granting them eternal life. But this black magic was horrifying, requiring a soul to be sacrificed each time it was used. Hearing this, Evelyn thought of her sister. Could it be that her sister had been sacrificed by the Frank family? But that wasn't the scariest part. Leonora told Evelyn that once someone was targeted by the beings inside the paintings, they would be cursed until death. While Evelyn was investigating the paintings, Adam had also been busy researching the woman in the painting. He discovered her identity. Her name was Cassandra, the wife of the 8th head of the Frank family. Ever since Cassandra's death, strange events had plagued the family. Members vanished mysteriously, and eventually, the mansion caught fire under mysterious circumstances. Since that fire, the Frank family had seen no more incidents, until Evelyn's sister married into the family. Hearing Adam's findings, Evelyn speculated that the missing family members might have been killed by the beings in the paintings, and perhaps someone in the family discovered the truth and set the house on fire. It seemed the only way to stop Cassandra from harming others was to burn the paintings. They quickly drove to the mansion, unaware that Cassandra had already appeared in Nelson's room right after they left. After several hours of travel, they arrived at the mansion. Adam took down all the paintings, preparing to burn them. Evelyn went to the basement to retrieve Cassandra's painting, but when she got downstairs, the painting was nowhere to be found. While searching, Evelyn noticed a gap behind the wooden panels. She pushed it open and found a hidden room filled with more paintings. At the far end of the room, she found a wooden box containing many letters and a necklace. Opening one of the letters, Evelyn discovered it was a love letter from Cassandra to her husband. It turned out Cassandra and John, the 8th head of the Frank family, had been childhood sweethearts. They married with the blessing of their families, but shortly after their wedding, Cassandra fell terminally ill. In a desperate attempt to save his wife, John used the family's dark magic to trap Cassandra's soul inside a painting. They had agreed that John would follow her in, but he broke his promise at the last moment. Not only did he refuse to join her, but he also sealed Cassandra's painting in the basement. Realizing she had been betrayed, Cassandra's heart filled with resentment, leading to her revenge against the Frank family, causing the tragedies that followed. But just as Evelyn was focused on reading the letters, the painting behind her suddenly flew up. Seeing Cassandra leap out of the painting, Evelyn panicked and tried to flee but was grabbed tightly. Fortunately, Adam arrived in time and pulled Evelyn out of the basement. The two fled the mansion and returned with gasoline, burning all the paintings. Evelyn suspected that Cassandra's painting might have followed them home last night. After burning the paintings, they hurried back. Upon arrival, Evelyn saw Janice running out of the house in terror. Nelson had been possessed by Cassandra. Hearing this, Adam and Evelyn rushed inside, restraining the frenzied Nelson. To lift the curse, they needed to find Cassandra's painting. They searched every corner of the house but couldn't find it. Then, Evelyn noticed the painting in Nelson's room, though nothing was on it. The size was exactly the same as Cassandra's painting. They brought the painting to the living room and, following the ancient book's instructions, recited the spell to summon John's spirit. But no matter how long they chanted, nothing happened. Meanwhile, possessed Nelson regained consciousness and began furiously banging on the wooden door, trying to break in. Evelyn frantically flipped through the book, searching for the mistake, only to discover that the ritual required a soul to be sacrificed. Seeing the crazed Nelson, then looking at Evelyn, Adam picked up a knife and cut himself. Seeing her husband bleeding on the floor, Evelyn was distraught. Adam urged her to quickly recite the spell. Otherwise, once Nelson broke in, the whole family would be killed by Cassandra. The paint on the table floated into the air, drawing an image of Adam on the canvas. Seeing Cassandra put on her clothes in the painting, Evelyn thought it was finally over, but frenzied Nelson broke in again, choking Evelyn by the neck. It turned out Cassandra wasn't angry because John didn't join her in death, but because he had trapped her in the painting, forever unable to reincarnate. In desperation, Evelyn threw her lighter at the painting, setting Cassandra ablaze and causing her to vanish. In the end, Evelyn placed Adam in the basement. That concludes our review of the horror film The Painted. That's all for today. See you next time.